Charlottesville, North Carolina. Certified. The most music in Duplin County. Streaming worldwide at surgeradio.org.
Good morning, Duplin County. It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday. The beautiful sunshine out there today. Well, I'm sorry, no sunshine out there today. This is Lee Woodard. You're listening to the Community and Small Business Update for Duplin County. It's such a pleasure to be here. I am so glad everyone is listening in. And hold on for a second. We may have a technical difficulty. There we go. I can hear myself now. All right, we got the volume on. Glad to be here. Today's show is a little bit different than what we have done in previous shows, and it's a whole lot personal for me. Our show today is ostensibly about the Relay for Life, but honestly, it's more than just that. We're going to have a couple of guests on our show. We've got Miss Jeanine Cavenaugh with us today to talk about the Relay for Life event that's going to be happening at James Sprunt Community College. But we're also have Miss Rhonda Ferrell with us today, and Rhonda is a cancer survivor, and we're going to talk with Rhonda and get a little bit about her story. As some of you may know, I lost my mom to cancer, and cancer is something that touches all of our lives, whether we have the illness or not. We've all been touched by it, and in many ways touched by it in ways we wish we hadn't been. The Community and Small Business Update is brought to you by James Sprunt Community College and the Small Business Center at James Sprunt Community College, and you're listening to us on Surge Radio. That's 100.5 FM and 710 AM. You can always stream us live at surgeradio.org. Such a pleasure to be here. Oh, and I forgot, interrupt. Today is a very special day. If anyone saw my Facebook post, today is a day that happens only once every century. It is Pie Day. And I don't just mean the kind of pie you eat. Today is Pie Day. It is 3.1415, and we're getting a good start on pi. Yes, we're talking about circles. We're talking about the constant pi. And in the middle of our show today, we will have pi out to 9 digits, and I've got Bill sitting over here beside me. He's going to help me remember. We're going to celebrate that. But now let's get back to what we're here for. Rhonda, it's such a pleasure to have you here today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great this morning.
Yeah. When I called you, I gave you so much time, Jeanine and I did, to be on the show, a couple of days ago. Such a pleasure to be here. And, Rhonda, you've been touched by cancer, haven't you?
I have.
Tell us a little bit about your story.
Okay, about 16 years ago, I was in the shower one morning and discovered a lump. So I went to the doctor and had it investigated, and they did find out that I had breast cancer. From that point, then, I went through the normal treatment of chemotherapy and radiation and surgery first, of course, and all that took place over a period of about 7 months. It's hard to believe that's been 16 years ago because I've been so involved with the Relay community since then, but I'm also a very fortunate person because of the research and the treatments that were available to me. I've made a full recovery, and that's something that everyone can't say.
So, not to make light of it, but I'm sure just as soon as you discovered you did have cancer, you started going through a lot of emotions, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely. I am a very talkative person, as people who know me do, and at the time I was director of the nursing program at James Sprunt, so I was very open about everything that happened, but I do know that when I went to the doctor that day and they did the biopsy, and here's me who talks all the time, and everybody says I don't even give my husband time to talk, but I remember coming out and saying, I can't do this. You're going to have to call my mother and dad. You're going to have to call the girls. You're going to have to tell everybody, which is not typical for me because it's just not something that you can do. And then after that initial time, then I was very comfortable talking about it. But I do know that a lot of people are very uncomfortable talking about it, and it's very difficult for them. And I respect that, but on the other hand, I think it's important to get the word out because had I not been insistent and said, yeah, check this lump, I might not be here today. And many people just want to ignore it and say, well, this is nothing and things are fine. But I think prevention and early detection are the key to having good outcome.
You're absolutely right, and I can be guilty of, if I don't look at it or acknowledge it, believing it doesn't exist. But one of the things that we're going to talk about later in the show is the American Cancer Society Relay for Life, and how the funds that are raised are used for a variety of things, research and other things. But early detection is one of the things. In many cases, not all cancers, but in many cancers, typically the earlier you find it, the better off you are, and in some instances are able to actually put it totally in remission. So in your case, you'd always been diligent about just doing the things you should do. Can you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, for instance, like in breast cancer, we've been really successful in this country, especially in eradicating a lot of the breast cancer and catching it early and doing something about it. On the other hand, it's still, I think, the third or fourth leading cause of death in North Carolina. It's actually the third leading cause of death in North Carolina, and cancer itself is the leading cause of death in North Carolina, with lung cancer and colorectal being first. Well, lung cancer doesn't really have any kind of testing that you can do ahead of time, but you certainly can not smoke and not do that, so you can certainly help yourself in that way. Colorectal cancer, just screenings for that we have available, and yet people don't do it. And then breast cancer with the mammogram and just monthly self-breast exams have been so successful for us in the cancer community. And we learned all that through doing research, and that's an important part of what we do. Other cancers are not quite as easily found. Pancreatic, ovarian cancer, they're very subtle cancers that you really don't pick up on until usually pretty late in the process of the disease. So the ones that we can do a lot about, I think it's kind of foolish not to do that breast exam or get that other testing that needs to be done.
Yeah, and I know, Rhonda, in your case, you're not the only person in your family to have been diagnosed with cancer, and that's been typical. In my family, I mentioned earlier, I lost my mom to lymphoma, but she also had breast cancer twice. She had 2 mastectomies, but my grandmother. So there's a long history of cancer in my family. What about yours?
Well, in mine, I wasn't the first person to get cancer. My father actually, the first thing he had was a couple of skin cancers, which were fairly easy to take care of and certainly easy to detect. But then he developed prostate cancer. And was one of the earliest people to benefit from lupron therapy, which was very early at the time. And again, that was something that the Cancer Society had provided research money so that could be developed. He lived for a long time, and I think it wasn't the prostate cancer that eventually killed him, but other things. But certainly he benefited from that. Shortly after he died, my mother, in fact, the very week that he died, we found out she had lymphoma. But here again, she had not been feeling well, and because she was taking care of him, not doing what she needed to do possibly, she had pretty advanced lymphoma. That's been about 16 years ago now, or no, that's been 15 years ago now, and she's still with us. And again, that's thanks to the treatment she had with her lymphoma. Had an aunt with breast cancer, had a cousin with breast cancer, so that's pretty prevalent in my family. So another reason why I continue to be involved with the American Cancer Society, and why when we started the relay in North Carolina and in Duplin County, I thought, this is a really good thing for us to do.
Yeah, and let me go ahead and apologize if I sound like I'm sitting inside of a bowl today. I am, and I understand my one of my guests, Jeanine, has a cold too. So as you hear me cough through this, just say a little prayer for me. I'll be fine. Hopefully I'm not contagious and giving it to everybody in the room. But someone said amen. Let's talk a little bit. We're going to come back to your story, but it's been over a decade and a half since you were diagnosed, and you've been in remission. Do they call it remission? They
do.
Okay. You've been in remission for a decade and a half, but you've gotten really busy. Tell us about your life as cancer, as it pertains to cancer today, some of the things you do.
Okay. Like I said, I got involved with the Relay for Life and have been doing that ever since it's been in North Carolina, in Duplin County, not North Carolina, but Duplin County, and have been very active in that. We've had good relays. Our relay's kind of fading a little bit, so we're hoping to get it rebuilt, and Jeanine's doing a good job of getting it rebuilt and getting it going again. But in addition to that, I've also been involved with the North Carolina American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. That's a whole lot to say. We call it ACS CAN. But what that does is, as part of the Cancer Society, that's a nonprofit, so you can't lobby and talk about getting monies and doing things like that. So with ACS CAN, what we do, in fact, I did it this week, we go and talk with our legislators about certain bills and things that we need in the country and in this state and what we need to do. So I've gotten involved in the legislative part of that. I go to Raleigh and I go to Washington once a year. This week we went to Raleigh and we talked about 3 specific bills that we're concerned about in North Carolina. One, and the General Assembly is looking at that right now and hopefully will pass it. In fact, it came out of committee Wednesday while we were there, and that is the one on teen tanning. This is prom season. All the kids want to prom and they put their dresses on and everything. But we also know that that population of kids is really susceptible to getting melanoma and skin cancers. And we know for a fact that tanning does cause some skin cancers. So we're working with the legislature right now to get that bill passed, and hopefully what will come out of the General Assembly is a bill that says that you have to be 18 in order to tan without your parents' permission, and I think that one's going through. And surprisingly enough, we really don't even have any opposition from the tanning bed industry right now, because they said, that's not the biggest part of who they serve, and they certainly can see a value in that. So that's one thing. The other is there's kind of a loophole in some of our insurance bills, and that is that they don't cover colorectal cancer screening. That's a national thing that we're doing, and we're talking about that. Medicare, for some reason, the way that law was written, or the way that information is written, won't fully cover colorectal screening, which is kind of ridiculous, because after 50, that's when people are most susceptible, and that's where we see our Medicare population. So we're working on that bill. We're working also on a bill, and this is another one that, when you write bills, I don't think, I certainly didn't realize how they're written and what goes into them, but there's so many little nuances. We don't cover oral chemotherapy the way we cover IV therapy, which is, it takes a whole lot more to put an infusion in, put the medicine in that, to stick it in your arm, do all that, and the timing, and our insurance will pay for that. Surprisingly enough, if we give you the same medicine in pill form, it won't pay for that. So the difference may be in cost to a patient of being in the thousands of dollars for a pill that it won't cover, as opposed to your insurance covered. So we're looking at that bill real carefully right now and hoping to get that passed.
What's the reception that you get when you lobby at the state senate or in D.C.? I mean, no politician worth his or her weight is going to say, well, that's not important, but still, it's a struggle.
Well, surprisingly, some of them do. In the state legislature, we've been accepted very well. Our congressmen from this area, Representative Dixon and Bell, have both been very supportive and have signed on actually to that skin cancer bill. We do, like I said, in North Carolina, get pretty good reception for all of those things. In Washington, our representatives in North Carolina, at least in my district, have been receptive. But surprisingly, we had one representative that told one of our people in Washington the other day, or last year, well, I don't know anybody that's had cancer. And I thought, no, that's not true, and no, this doesn't affect you. And I thought, get real, lady, this is something that affects everybody. So, but most of the time they're pretty receptive. Now, whether they support the bill or not is another thing, because of all the negotiations that go on. But as a general rule, they're pretty receptive. And I will say, when we go to Washington, we have about 600 people up there from all 50 states, Puerto Rico, and our territories. And we either see or we visit every single congressional office, both in the Senate and the Congress. And we have to wear these Carolina blue shirts, which doesn't make me happy, but I do put the Carolina blue on for that time. And we're all over Capitol Hill talking with them. So it's a huge impact that we have when we go up there.
Well, that's excellent. And by the way, Carolina did upset UVA yesterday and will be in the finals tonight. I couldn't pass that up.
I'll say this: we have when we go to Washington, there's Coaches Against Cancer. That's an organization that our basketball coaches have in the college area. And year before last, Roy was up there, and Roy Williams did one of the speeches. We usually have 4, and he was one of them. And of course, he was most popular at the time, and he came over and took a picture of us. And my nephews went to Carolina. I didn't. I have a red and purple allegiance, but and Roy was taking the picture with his hand on my shoulder, and I thought, okay, I can do this. This is okay. This is a different cause, but very effective speaker in doing that. So it's not just us that do it.
Good.
I was pleased to see coaches doing that too.
One of the things that you mentioned just in passing, and I think Jeanine's going to talk about it a little more a bit later, but our involvement in Relay for Life is sort of going down as compared to as it has been in the past. And a lot of times I don't think people understand how the money's used, where it goes, or all of that. But you mentioned something when I spoke with you earlier this week, that a good amount of money that's raised for Relay for Life, not just here in North Carolina, but all over the country, comes back to North Carolina because we have 3 very special places.
We do, and people don't understand that. They say, I have cancer, I'm going to go to Duke, I'm going to Chapel Hill, I'm going to Greenville, I'm going to Wilmington, wherever. But in North Carolina, we're very fortunate. We have 3 comprehensive cancer centers, and those are funded by the NIH, the National Institute of Health. And that money comes from us lobbying Congress, and we get that. And as important as it is to do Relay and get that money, when you're talking dollars, you're talking millions of dollars a year that we get from the different relays in the country. You're talking billions of dollars with a B that we get from Congress. So it's not a drop in the hat to do these relays. It's important, and that's money that we need. But the real money that we need for research really comes from the federal government, and we don't need those funds cut. When we had that cut in the budget 2 years ago from Congress, that we took a hit with that, but we did manage to get some of that money back last year. But that's an important part of what we do, and we need those research dollars.
Yeah, and going back just for a second, when we were talking, in many ways, I understand I have not ever been diagnosed with cancer. I had it all around me, but I've never personally been. But I understand that typically someone who has been diagnosed with cancer, it's not uncommon that you go through some of the very stages you do with grief, anger at the disease, depression, and it's hard, I'm sure, or impossible maybe to work through it by yourself. Talk a little bit about your support network.
Again, I think that's an important thing. I know with me, like I said, I was teaching at Sprunt at the time, and one thing they did, and somebody came and said, "Are you all right with that?" And I said, "Yeah." They put a big sign outside, and had not a fundraiser, but they wore little ribbons and did things, and they were like, "Oh, are you really okay with that?" And I said, "I'm absolutely fine with that. If this helps one person by me talking about something, that's something that I think will be good for everyone." And I think as a result of that, I think some people did go and get checked. And I think just like we see on TV when, I can't remember who it was it Katie Couric or somebody, I think, had a colonoscopy on TV, and people went out and did it. So when you see somebody that go through it, then it's like, gosh, I think maybe I need to do that too. And the support I got, and the reason I said that about what they did at Sprunt, that meant an awful lot to me that they were doing that. I couldn't have done this without my children. I could not have done this without my husband, who was extremely supportive, or my parents. I do know that I had a cousin, like I said, whose mother died with breast cancer. When she found out, she said, "But it should have been me, not you." I said, "It shouldn't have been anybody, but it's me. So, let's deal with it like it is." Or like your parents say, "Well, gosh, you're young and it should be me." Well, it's not. And cancer strikes people who are very young. Cancer strikes people who are very old. And if you have a good support network there, that's important. And Cancer Society actually does that for some people. There are people who have cancer that don't have family, and there is a support network there. There's some transportation that we work out and other things. And I won't say it's the easiest thing in the world to do, but there is help available for people who need it. And I just think that's probably more than the treatment, the thing that you need, because sometimes radiation seems like something that's so easy to do. Everybody talks about chemo and the effects of that, but with radiation, people get extremely tired. Well, you've got to drive yourself to a treatment. It's nice to have somebody to take you, and it's nice to have somebody come over and say, "Here's a meal I brought you today," or something like that. So those things help.
The research is very, very clear. If you can have hope in your head and heart, if you can laugh a little bit while it's going on. Any of those types of things that maintain a positive attitude help all diseases in trying to get through them. We're going to talk a little bit, and we're going to get Jeanine here on in just a minute, but do you have any of the numbers as far as how much money is raised for Relay for Life?
Actually, since Relay was started, I think nationally there's been about $5 billion raised, and that's throughout the country. And Relay started back in 1985, and I know Jeanine's going to talk about that a little bit. And that's a lot of money. It truly is. But like I said, it's a drop in the bucket to what the federal government does for us. And during that time, last year alone, we have 500,000 survivors nationally from cancer and 300 million volunteers that are working on this. So those things are important. One other thing I didn't mention is the research grants that are given, and this has impacted us a lot. If you can imagine, you're in the middle of doing a project and somebody takes your funding away. Let me just give you an analogy. I'm in the middle of baking a cake, and all of a sudden somebody says, well, I can't fund your oven, so you're not going to be able to bake your cake. You're right in the middle of it. You're going to pick your cake up and go somewhere else. Same thing has happened with our researchers. They've been right on the cutting edge of getting some of these diseases taken care of and finding a cure, and then all of a sudden they've had to shut down their labs. And we're losing those people. They're going overseas and going to other places, so it's important that we keep that research here and keep that money here for us. I think in terms of people that we lost for North Carolina, I just wanted to say that in 2014 we had over 52,000 people diagnosed with cancer. That's a lot of people in North Carolina. And of those, we had over 18,000 deaths. Now, if we can prevent that and get care for those people, then that's an important part of what we're doing.
Can you say that again?
Yeah. In North Carolina last year, we had 52,550 people actually diagnosed with cancer, and that's with our statistics that we have. And of those, 18,980 people died from cancer. Now, that's a lot of deaths. And not just one kind of cancer, certainly right. All of them, but certainly something we can certainly get those numbers down.
I think that's probably a great time for us to segue into my my other guest that's here. We got Jeanine Cavenaugh, and my understanding is Jeanine is fortunate to have the same malady that I do. She's got a cold too. So how are you doing?
I'm doing great this morning. Thank you, Lee, for having us on.
Oh, this is as I said, this is a very personal thing for me, and we'll get through this, right?
That's right.
Okay. Talk a little bit about the Relay for Life. I know you've got some information about the past here in Duplin County, how it's been done, and what we're planning on doing. First of all, when is it?
Relay is Friday, May 1st at James Sprunt Community College. It'll begin at 6 p.m. and it will go through midnight.
Say that again.
May 1st, 6 p.m. through midnight on the campus of James Sprunt Community College.
You heard that, Kurt. You're going to be out there with me, right, buddy? All right. You can call in a little bit later and confirm that. So, what do it's a celebration, right? It's an opportunity to remember, and it's a fundraiser. Tell us a little bit about what will be going on.
Well, first of all, let me tell you, Relay started 30 years ago this year in Tacoma, Washington by Dr. Gordon Klatt. Unfortunately, we lost Dr. Klatt last year to cancer in August of 2014. But he started this event to symbolize the battle waged around the clock by those who are facing cancer. And the event can last up to 24 hours, and it empowers communities and individuals to take a stand to fight this ugly thing called cancer. When our relay starts, we have what's called an opening ceremony. It's a typical ceremony. We have the color guard. We sing or have someone to sing the Star Spangled Banner. We have a survivor speaker. This year we're hoping to have a caregiver speaker, because caregivers go through a lot too when their loved one is battling cancer. Then we have the crowning of the king and queen. This is something I started several years ago working with survivors. We put survivors who attend our dinner and the United Relay, their name in a bucket, and we draw them out, and we crown them king and queen, and they get to lead what is known as survivor's lap. And after they make one lap around the track, we invite their caregivers to come out and join them in a lap. And after that, we'll have the parade of teams. All the teams that are there that's fundraising through the night will have an opportunity to walk around the lap, and the relay is officially kicked off then. And there will be entertainment, activities, games, just different things going on throughout the night. You can come out and have dinner. There will be food available throughout the night.
Okay. Let's go back and, we touched on it just a little bit with Rhonda, but, what is Relay for?
Relay, the purpose of Relay, which is the signature event of the American Cancer Society, and it's the #1 fundraising event of all the events hosted in the United States. It is the biggest. The purpose of it is to raise money to help the American Cancer Society save lives by supporting education, prevention efforts, fund groundbreaking cancer research, and provide free information and services for people who have cancer and that need them. For an example, women who are undergoing chemo, ACS has the Look Good, Feel Good program that they help women to do their makeup, to style their wigs, or how to wear a turban. We have a man-to-man program for men who are undergoing prostate cancer. There is a Hope Lodge located in Greenville, North Carolina. It provides free lodging for people who are out of town that's undergoing cancer treatment. The money it's not just to help research, but it's to provide these programs. If you need transportation, if you have no immediate family around you and you need transportation to your treatment, ACS can help provide that, and they can provide this service to people because of people in the community being generous with their money and donating.
That's excellent. In one of the things I do want to mention, we're going to sort of go through what's going to happen on the 1st, but there's an event prior to that in April, correct, for survivors?
That is correct. On Sunday, April 12th, starting at 3 o'clock over in Kenansville at the Ed Emery Auditorium at Duplin Commons, we will have the Survivor Banquet. We invite all survivors to please come attend. It is a free event for them. They're allowed to bring one guest.
Excellent. And I do need to interrupt for a second. If anyone's looking at the time that we've got, we should be getting close to or right at 9:26. Depends on whose watch you're using. But 9:26 and 53 seconds, we have now gone out to 9 digits to pi, 3.141592653. And yes, I'm a nerd, and I get to say that. But it really is important. Without pi, we wouldn't know that every circle, no matter how big it is, has the same ratio, and we wouldn't be able to do calculus, and we wouldn't be able to do all the fun things that we do. Okay, enough nerd stuff. Jeanine, I'm sorry for interrupting you here. After the Survivor dinner, let's go back to the very beginning on May 1st. What's going to happen? What's the timeline?
We'll kick everything off at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
When we do the Survivor lap, the caregiver lap, the parade of teams, we're going to have musical entertainment. There will be a DJ there. We'll just have different activities for people to get involved in. Also, all throughout the evening, the teams there will be fundraising. They will have food, trinkets, raffles, just different things for them to raise money. At 9 o'clock, we have what is called the Luminaria ceremony. That is where those before relay, even the night of relay, we will be selling luminary bags. They are $10 a piece, and they can be purchased in honor of someone that is fighting cancer and has survived, or in memory of those that has lost their life to cancer. And at 9 o'clock, we will light all the bags. We have a moment of silence. We usually do a silent lap around the track. And it's a time to reflect on the people that we have lost, and a time to just pray that we will one day hear that there will no longer be cancer.
I understand that that's a very moving ceremony.
It is. It's usually a time where you really need to bring out the tissues because most people are crying. It's an emotional event, but it hits home. It lets you know that you do need to get out there and help raise money to fight this.
And for those who are sitting out there with extra money today that they did not know what they were going to do with it, perhaps we have a suggestion for them.
You can donate it to us. You can come to Relay and spend your money to us. We do have opportunities for businesses that are out there and would like to get your name on the back of the event T-shirt. We do have corporate sponsors. In order to get your name on the shirt, begins at $250 and go up. The more money you give us, the bigger your name will be on that shirt.
Yeah, and as part of any business that wants to donate to Relay for Life, if you'll let me know, let Jeanine know, she'll tell me. I'll be glad to read an advertisement for you on there during the show. We'll give you some free exposure here because I think it really is that important. So is this a rain or shine event, or if it rains, what are we going to do?
We're going to still relay.
Well, okay, sounds good.
Cancer does not take a break, rain or shine. It's a 24/7 thing.
You're absolutely right. Let's talk a little bit about when it's kicked off. There's a lot of walking going on, isn't there?
Yes, there is. We ask that each team member or each team have at least one member on the track at all time. Again, this symbolizes that cancer is a 24/7 thing. We get tired. Unfortunately, relay as a whole across the nation has seen a decline. We used to spend the night, but most relays now are opting not to. We don't quite understand why. We don't know if everybody's too busy or what. But this year, Duplin County's relay will only go to midnight. But as far as, when the teams used to spend the night, you get tired. You get giddy. And this is way people who are undergoing cancer, they get tired. They have a lot of fatigue. They cry, they laugh. This is what relay is about. We sort of experience in a small amount, what a cancer person is going through.
So what's our goal to raise for Duplin County?
We have a goal of $55,000.
Okay. And we've been doing this for many years, but it hadn't always been at James Sprunt. So how long have we been doing this?
This will make the 16th year for Duplin County's relay. It began at James Sprunt. We had so many teams, so we actually outgrew the use of the campus. We have seen a decline over the years. We've been in different places. We've been at James Kenyon High School one year. We've been at the Duplin Event Center before, but we have decided to move it back home, what we consider home, because everyone in the community seemed to like it better there. It's more of a community event, a close-knit, almost like a street fair or something. Everybody seems to enjoy it better there, and the ones who know that it is going back to James Sprunt are so excited. We're excited. I want to thank James Sprunt Community College for giving us this opportunity. James Sprunt itself has been very supportive of the relay event. We currently have 7 teams just from the college itself, and there's still chance of other people joining us. It's not too late. For anyone out there that's interested in joining the team, we will be having a meeting on April, I believe it's the 8th. It's the first Monday night of April on the campus of James Sprunt Williams Building 100. We encourage you to come, and we'll get the information there for you and get you signed up, and you can start raising money.
Okay, make sure you let me know, and I'll put that on the Small Business Center's website just so we can get that information out to people. Wow, as it happens every Saturday, we're already halfway through the program, and never seems to amaze me. And by the way, you're doing great, Jeanine. You don't sound like you're nearly as sick as me. Of course, I'm a man, therefore I think I'm the sickest human on the planet. But anyway, the call-in number is not, there you go, she's doing that just for show. The call-in number is 910-289-2031. Again, it's 910-289-2031. If you want to call in, tell us how much you're going to give for Relay for Life. We'd love to take that call. Or if you want to form a team, let me know. Or if you've got questions for Rhonda or for Jeanine, I'll be taking questions on pie. But just kidding. It seems to be going well here. So, we push the microphone back over to Rhonda for a second. I got a question for you. Part of the Relay for Life is to celebrate the fact that you're in remission, or to remember those who didn't make it. But what part of it is also to celebrate those who are caregivers.
Yes.
And I think you've got some caregivers that probably were important to you. We'll talk about what Relay does for the caregivers.
Sure. We didn't, when we first started this, we concentrated so much on our survivors and the people we had lost, and somebody said, wait a minute, we need to look at those people who are taking care of them, because actually they have a lot of their life that they have to give up and do. It's taking care of people at their very sickest. It's keeping their spirits up and all of that for the person who has cancer. But then you have to have somebody there to keep the person who's giving that care. They need some support. And the caregivers, as I said, my husband, I couldn't have done this without him, and I couldn't have done it without my friends. I tend to be a positive person anyway, but I think my positive attitude came more from the people around me. Nobody came in and said, "Oh, poor me, this is happening." That you have to look at things like, this is going to be okay. And the people that were important to me were my students. They were always so upbeat around me and laughing, like you said, and doing it. And some of the things that happen are funny. I can tell you one story, and I taught nursing for many years and know an awful lot about anatomy and physiology, and had taught the cancer portion of much of our curriculum. And the one thing that happened to me, and it was funny, I thought, in the middle of the winter it gets cold, and I have short hair now. I had long hair then, and I thought, okay, well, my head's cold. Well, all of a sudden I started breathing, and you lose your nose hair. You lose the hair on top of your head, but you lose the hair in the middle of your nose. And let me tell you something. I remember the lesson in anatomy when it said, you have cilia in your nose to warm up and filter the air. And I thought, yeah, big deal. That means a lot. Well, when I lost the nose hair that I had, it was like, okay, that makes sense, because you feel that really cold air going up into your head. So there were some funny moments, too, and things that I needed to learn. But also, as a cancer person then, when I was teaching, I could say to my students, this is what's happening. And look at me now. I have cancer, and I can talk to you now as a patient, but I can also talk to you as a person who's giving care. And that makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
when you're doing that.
It's funny about the anatomy, and in very different ways I've learned some of those same things. I'm an orthopedics annuity. I've broken every bone in my body, most of them more than once, and have had lots and lots of surgeries. And you do learn a lot about what the body is intended to do when you can't do it. But one of the things that let me ask: are you on a team?
I am. Our church, Warsaw Baptist Church, has a team, and it's primarily run by our youth, and I have to say they've done a really good job. They do spaghetti dinners, and last year we sold pine straw, and they go out and do a lot of things and try to raise money. And they don't raise huge amounts, but for them it's a big deal and something they enjoy doing. My grandson, for instance, is on that team, and I will say we have pictures of him when he was a baby. He's 16, and this has been going on for 16 years. And I remember that first year we were in the tent getting ready to go to sleep, and Kobe was in there, and you've got this little kid in there with all these grown-ups. So he's a relay baby. We call him our relay baby because he has been passionate about doing that for a long time.
That's a great story. And I think part of what you just said, we could sort of put that out to all the churches in Duplin County. Maybe we would like to see if we get a little contest going between the churches. So your team is part of the Warsaw Baptist Church. Warsaw Baptist Church. All right, Wallace Presbyterian Church. That's where I go. There's maybe something you might want to think about. And again, I hate to keep passing the microphone. Jeanine, I got a question for you. Are there some businesses that that are a part of this that you'd like to acknowledge, other than James Sprunt is obviously committing a whole lot to pull off this event?
Murphy Brown, they are one of our big supporters. Butterball, Murphy Brown is actually having their Glow Run, which is the end of this month. It's Saturday, I believe it's March 28th, over in the Kenansville Park. You can contact Wanda Simmons at Murphy Brown if you're interested in participating in that event. Let's see, who else do we have, Rhonda?
I'm trying to think this year. You mentioned Murphy Brown. Guilford, you said.
Yes, we want to give a special big thank you to Guilford. They are joining us for the first time this year. They're excited about it. Also, Duplin Winery is a sponsor for the event. Again, there's a lot of corporate sponsors we could be getting out here from you guys in the community. Please remember your donation is tax deductible. We will be contacting some next week. We have a list that we need, especially the ones that participated last year. We'd love to have you again this year. Big thank you to Albertson Ruritan Club. You always support us every year, and we certainly appreciate that.
Yeah, and it takes more than, we will certainly plug it. I will put it on the Small Business Center webpage, and I assume Phoenix hasn't, we'll be getting it on the James Sprunt webpage and all of those types of things, but we need to just talk about it amongst everybody in the community and try to make it as big of an effort as we can. And maybe you mentioned it, Jeanine, I wasn't sure. I know you mentioned that the time that we would be kicking it off. Did you sort of go through exactly what we're going to do as far as at 6, that would be the opening ceremonies? Talk back through that just so people know, starting at 6, about what's going to happen.
We're going to open it up, color guard, we'll have invocation, we will have the crowning of the King and Queen of Relay, which are survivors. They will lead the survivor lap. We will have the survivor lap followed by the caregiver, and then a parade of teams, and Relay will officially be kicked off, and they will continue fundraising throughout the night. And again, if you need a place to go eat, please come and join us. St. John's Lodge will be there selling their famous barbecue sandwiches.
And Rhonda, I know that you would be part of the survivor lap. I assume your husband will be joining you on lap number 2.
He does. And I can tell you this, I don't get emotional about a lot of things, but every single time I walk that lap, I get teary. Even now, and I think, I don't think of myself so much as a survivor as an organizer and a person doing it, but I get on that lap and it's like, okay, this is a different ball game. I wanted to say that, and I think Jeanine mentioned this, but the luminaries are so important to our relay and probably one of the most touching things that we do. So if you do have a loved one who has had cancer or someone who has passed away from cancer, if you want to buy a luminary, I think that's such a nice thing to do to honor that person. And that luminary lamp, we've got pictures from many years. I always take pictures, and it amazes me the number of luminaries we have. It just is very touching. But I also wanted to say, when we went to Washington last year, we had 16,000 luminaries around the reflecting pool at the Capitol, and that in itself was just it was a very moving ceremony. We usually stay at a hotel there close to Capitol Hill so we can walk up and back to the offices. And last year, one of the things we did in Washington, the Capitol Police blocked off traffic. We usually have to walk on the sidewalk. We were in the middle of the road. We had a bagpiper who piped us all the way up to the reflecting pool, and then they had the caregiver and the survivor ceremony up there, and then we walked around the reflection pool. That was a really powerful moment for us up there. And the other thing we did that made an impact, I think, we always invite our congressmen and senators to come to that ceremony, and I think it does make an impression on them. It certainly, of all the visual things we do at Relay, that's probably has the most impact of any of the ceremony. The opening ceremony is important, the survivor stories are important, but that luminary ceremony kind of brings home that these are real people.
Yeah, I have been and attended those. It is quite moving, and it just sort of sets or really points out that surviving this is a joint effort. It takes everyone. It takes politicians working for policy. It takes caregivers that are there. It takes the person themselves who has the disease. It's a joint effort as we work to survive it. I can't remember. I don't think, but even if we did, let's say it again. What are the funds used for that are raised for Relay for Life specifically?
The Relay funds predominantly are used for care. Now, they don't all come back to this community, which is a point of contention with some people, but I always say we have the Relay events are divided into regions, and we're in the South Atlantic region. I will say that the South Atlantic region in the country raises more money than all the other regions. So we are very good at raising money. in doing that. So our money goes back into the funds, like Jeanine said, the Look Good, Feel Good, Look Good, Feel Better, helping the men on men programs, transportation monies, other things like that. All of those monies come back, and that's primarily what Relay is used for. The federal dollars that we get, again, are mostly research dollars, and that's not a hard line between all of that, but primarily that's what you're looking at.
That's excellent. Let me just remind everyone, if you do want to call in, we have about 15 minutes, certainly plenty of time to take a call if you want to call in. Our call-in number is 910-289-2031. That's 910-289-2031. And again, you're listening to the Community and Small Business Update for Duplin County. I am Lee Woodard. I am your guest today. My guests are Jeanine Cavenaugh and Rhonda. Rhonda Ferrell is a cancer survivor from breast cancer, and we're talking about Relay for Life and how important it is, not just to cancer survivors or to remember those who didn't win their fight against cancer, but all of us that are affected by it. How many teams? I think, Jeanine, do you know how many teams we have this year?
We're up to 18.
Okay.
Our goal was to have 15, so we have met that goal.
Great.
We're excited about that, but there's still room for more teams. I, Lee, am a caregiver. I've been a caregiver since 1994. My father had a heart attack in 93. When he got all better over that and everything, he lost half of his nose to skin cancer. And I took him to Chapel Hill for 14 and a half years. Along that, I worked a full-time job, and a lot of times it was taking him to Chapel Hill, driving up in the driveway, putting him out, and then going to work and staying there at 8 and 9 o'clock at night. It's tough. His skin cancer was basal cell, which if you're going to have skin cancer, that's the best kind to have. But unfortunately, it will disfigure you depending on where it is on your body. And again, he did lose half of his nose. He went, had reconstructive surgery, rebuilt his nose, and it looked good. We had a 1.5 year break. The cancer came back. And right now, my dad will celebrate his 84th birthday in May, and he is severely disfigured because of that cancer. Unfortunately, 9 years ago, they found basal cell on my back, and during treatment for that, they found squamous cell cancer on my arm. While I was going for treatment for both of those, I had 2 moles that kept growing, and I decided to show them to the dermatologist. Well, each time I called in for my pathology report, the nurse told me. This time, when the moles were taken off, the doctor wanted to talk to me. And they had what was called atypical cells, and 95% of the time, they turn into melanoma. He told me if I had not got those moles off of me, within 6 months, I would have had melanoma. So I was very fortunate, blessed. Early detection, keep yourself checked, regardless, if it's breast cancer, prostate, skin cancer, keep yourself checked. Early detection is the key to a lot of this survivorship. My dad is a big trooper. I'm very concerned what I'm going to undergo, because skin cancer typically starts appearing when you're 60 years old. And he was in his 60s, and I was only 40 when mine was detected. I was a young, red-headed, fair-skinned, putting on baby oil and iodine in the 1970s and 80s, so blistering, looking like a lobster. They could not comprehend that I was never going to tan. So I'm praying that the good Lord will look out for me, and I will not have any major issues when I get older. But, being a caregiver, it's tough, and they need to be recognized. Survivors, again, my mom's had breast cancer. I've been through that with her. Everything with my dad, the cancer's not there, but he's still suffering because of it. He has nosebleeds. As Rhonda was talking about the nose hairs, he doesn't have that anymore because part of his nose is gone. And cold weather especially, we undergo nosebleeds with him being on blood thinners. It's hard for him to get it to stop. And I have pulled out 11 o'clock at night to the emergency room to try to keep him from losing so much blood. We can help eradicate cancer if Duplin County will pull together and join Relay and help raise the money that is needed to find a cure, to provide these services. I'm begging, I'm pleading. I've seen marriages break up because of people having cancer. I've seen dreams lost. And it's time that we take a stand against this ugly thing called cancer.
It was very moving, Jeanine. One of the things I don't think we mentioned at the Survivor Dinner is, was it 2014? There were 700 years of survivorship?
Every year, as part of our Survivor Dinner, we let the survivors build a survivor chain. We also let those who attend the relay event that were not at the dinner, they can also add links. They get a link for every year that they've been cancer-free, and I kid you not, there's some people there who are getting 35 and 40 links. That is awesome. And then we put the chain together and we let the survivors tote the chain around the survivor lap. Last year there were over 700 years of survivorship present.
That's excellent. We've got Rhonda over here going, yay. Rhonda, we've got only about 10 minutes. I will give the number out one more time, but it's 910-289-2031. Feel free to call in and ask a question to Rhonda or to Jeanine or to me about Pi Day. Rhonda, anything you want to add that, now that we've had a chance to just have this chat, anything you think of that you'd like to add?
I can just say that in the 16 years we've been doing Relay, we have had a lot of support in Duplin County. As Jeanine says, sometimes the support's waning a little bit and we are in a rebuilding year. But I think the biggest year we had 39 teams one year in Duplin County. And that was a huge thing, and we raised almost $200,000 that year. So our goals have gone down a little bit, but our passion is still there, and we still do need to beat this thing called cancer. It affects so many people. Several years ago, and I know everyone in town has seen the Love for Layla signs. When she was first undergoing some of her chemo, we did luminaries that year, and we had special pink bags for her. And that was real special for us, and I hope for her family too. And fortunately, she's doing fairly well right now. That's bad when a baby has to start undergoing chemo. It's bad for anybody, but especially when you think of parents and children going through that. And that's something too that sometimes people get upset because they say, well, breast cancer's out there, and they push that, and there's pink ribbons everywhere. Well, that's true, and that's Susan G. Komen that does that, and we work with them in the American Cancer Society. But ACS is really a movement or an organization in this country that works on all different kinds of cancer. Some of the cancers that we have are so rare, so completely rare, that it's really hard to get research dollars for that. When you've got 100 people having breast cancer and 2 people maybe having something else, of course the money's going to go to the 100 people. So those people with a more rare type of any disease work harder at getting funding for that. So ACS does work on some of those obscure diseases, and I think that's important. I don't think I mentioned, I said we had 3 comprehensive cancer centers. I don't think I actually said where they were. One is Chapel Hill, one is Duke, and one is in Wake Forest. And as I told you the other day on the phone, North Carolina is extremely lucky to have 3 comprehensive cancer centers because some states have none. So not only are we fortunate that we have those facilities here, but those facilities also bring in dollars to this state, lots and lots of grant dollars and lots of jobs. So we have not only a medical impact in this state, but we have an economic impact in this state in terms of what that funding does in keeping those people working.
Yeah, it's, I was excited about when Jimmy and I were sort of talking about the show and pulled Jeanine in. The more I was thinking about it, the more excited I was. I hope everyone was listening. We'll continue to promote it. Jeanine, I appreciate you coming on and trying to get the mic to Jeanine so she can hear. Jeanine, anything you wanted to add?
Excuse me, here we go with the frog voice.
Yep.
I do want to encourage everyone, if you've never come out and participated in the relay event, let this be your first year to do so. A lot of people don't understand what relay is, and once you come and participate, you get the purple fever. It's just a great event. It's just, again, I just encourage, there's not too late to sign up for a team. It's not too late to raise money. Churches, if you can't do a team, take up a love offering and give it to us. I can't think of a better way to give the money to help us out. Again, I hope Mr. Lee can persuade his church into getting involved.
We'll have a conversation tomorrow.
That's Friday. It's Saturday, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And again, folks, I'm so glad you joined us today. This was the community and small business update for Duplin County. My guest, this is Lee Woodard, and my guests were Jeanine Cavenaugh and Rhonda Ferrell. She talking about the Relay for Life coming up May 1st at James Sprunt. We certainly am looking for the entire county to get behind us and to celebrate. We've already met our goal of 15 teams. However, we've not even come close to exceeding our, what was it, 39?
Yeah.
So let's have 40 teams this year. Maybe that won't happen, but there's no reason why we can't dream. Next week on the show, you'll have a guest host. Actually, it'll be Kurt Simpson, but I'll still be here because Kurt's going to interview me. We're going to talk about everything you ever wanted to know about the Small Business Center but was afraid to ask. And you probably will still be afraid to ask after after we go over it. But, interesting, one of the reasons I started the show is because it doesn't appear that a fair number of citizens of Duplin County understand the Small Business Center even exists. And if they did know, perhaps they don't know what our services are. And so I thought it was one of the things that we could do to try and explain what we have to offer. And my goal is to serve not just new businesses, but existing businesses as well. So tune in next week to get to hear Kurt interview me on the Small Business Center. And this is Lee Woodard. We'll be back next week with the Community and Small Business Update with Duplin County. Y'all have a great weekend. It was coming. Could not stop it. Oh, that was a struggle.
Will we be famous now?
Yes, ma'am.
There you go, Rhonda.